Look, I thought I'd just open by giving you some of the thought processes that come into my head around what we're doing with VelTrak. And as you guys know, I work for Gallagher up in Hamilton, and we're a manufacturer making electronic assemblies of various types, some of which you guys will be using. And when we make that stuff, this is a cutaway of a picture of an electric fence energizer, and inside that's made up of about 200 or 300 different parts that make it that we need to make that thing go. With those parts, we buy them in, and then we assemble the product. This is a picture here on the right-hand side of all the bits and pieces all the little microchips that we buy to make the circuit. And they come on reels, just like a machine, like a machine gun belt with the bullets. But instead of having bullets, you have all these little chips. And the machines, they pick these bits off and they put them onto the product. Now, with the performance of the piece of kit, it relies on all those parts doing their job correctly. And if one of those parts fails or doesn't do its job, you don't deliver the customer what you're promising to them. And that's the same as the healthy functional food companies that we're working with that are using our ingredients to make their products and make claims and sell to their customers. So I'm trying to join the two things up for you. And so we rely on trusted brands for those little parts that are going in our devices to make sure that we can deliver on our promise. And we actually we make sure that that all those products that go in there, that they're traceable, because every now and again you get one there's a problem. And if you get a problem with one of your ingredients, you hopefully you find out before your customer does, and you work out from which batch those ingredients came. Then you go back and you get all the products and you sort them out. Now, this doesn't happen very often. It might only happen every few years. But when it does, if you've got traceability of your ingredients that you're putting into your product, you can actually do something about it and you can manage the outcome for your customer. So that's the exact thought process that'll be going through our customer's mind when they're using our Velvet as a key ingredient in their products. The other thing I wanted to just talk a little bit about in this respect was brands. So when you think of a brand, and in this case you've got a picture of a BMW there, that brings up a whole lot of emotions or thoughts associated with BMW. Some of you guys will like the brand, some of you may not. But if you've owned one of that car or vehicle, your experience with that product will determine what you think of that brand. And basically, a brand is a company's reputation. So here's a little picture here where there's some. I should have put something up here about tractors, but this is 3 cars, and you'll see on the specs they all look quite similar. And so you're thinking, well, which one should I pick? I'll pick the one that goes the fastest. Or will I pick the one that's the cheapest? Which one will I pick? So when we throw the brands up on top of there, straight away, you've now, the emotions that we were talking about from the last presenter, some emotions come into your mind based on your perception of those brands. So the Lexus is probably going to be pretty reliable and super, super cool, but not quite as perhaps prestigious as a BMW, I don't know. So the brand communicates a lot about your expectations of performance and what you're prepared to pay. Imagine if that was tractors and we put up there Polaris, John Deere, and maybe David Brown, you'd have a few different thoughts as to which one you'd rather have, right? David Brown, yeah. Hands down. So with our velvet industry, we're not selling sticks of velvet. We're selling New Zealand deer velvet with a whole lot of properties that represent value and represent our reputation in our customers' minds. So, and that's our story, if you like. That the sum of all those bits and our customers' interactions with us is what determines their perception of us and our product. And that's not a static thing in time. That's a thing in time that has to move as customers' expectations move. I was interested in the previous comments that were just being made by Sarah about, you'd never actually win the race. It's a shame. You don't sort of get there. You've just got to keep being better than your competition at all points to command and achieve the best return. So these are all the things that we do. We've got an amazing genetic program. We are producing velvet and deer in the most beautiful of landscapes on grass predominantly. We've got a well-coordinated industry, all these people in the room and further around New Zealand. We've developed the New Zealand Deer Velvet brand, and there's a great story that's been produced associated with that. Great distribution network. And then we've got an awesome way of harvesting and looking after the product that's independently verified, etc. So all these things together are the things that make New Zealand Deer Velvet stand out from the other sources of deer velvet. But the one bit there that was a bit ropey was our traceability system. And we have to have a traceability system to meet the requirements of the RCS. We had breaking tags, and it's all run by what I call handrolics. Handrolics is where it's not very automated. You've got a whole lot of moving parts and people, and those people do a great job, but it's also it's not as perhaps professionally as it could be. So when the executive brought the VelTrak concept to the board, there was a number of things we worked through in terms of making the decision to make that investment. And as I said before, we had the hydraulic system. We had some tags that weren't very good. We know that this traceability system is something we have to underpin the strong marketing efforts that we have in the market, and to be able to handle the stuff ups, the insurance policy, if anything goes wrong in any part of the supply chain, give us the ability to react. We knew that we were a bit slow in reacting. It would take quite a while with the old system. And just to manage risks, if something goes wrong, how quickly, if we get shut down for a short period of time, how quickly can we reopen? So there was a big financial analysis done, and that showed that the investment we had to make, or that we'd make in the system that you're all coming to grips with now, that the financial return's pretty good. The main thing is that insurance policy. So if something goes wrong, if we get shut down for a period of time, we can reopen quicker, we can solve any problems. A lot of time saving in terms of the process. It's basically automatic. We've got quite a sophisticated database running the whole thing. And it's also a key component in that whole brand story. So overall, we think it's the right thing to do, and really looking forward to seeing you guys adopt the thing this year and create another level of protection for New Zealand deer velvet.
I'm wanting to take us back a bit, back to 2008 and kind of further back and where things stood for our industry. A pretty kind of brutal assessment was that probably over 90% of our velvet was being sold into kind of grey channels as an undifferentiated commodity. A few buyers that really controlled that process. That's not a Korean cartel up there, clearly, but you kind of get the general gist of what I'm trying to show. There's a bit of misrepresentation, adulteration, commingling, and what have you, and a real lack of product stewardship. So what you guys are producing with passion on your farms didn't quite make it all the way through their value chain and out to the customer at the other end. This is a graph that many of you guys will be familiar with, but it's a graph that really shows and paints the picture quite well. The volatility on the blue line showing prices having significant swings, significant peaks and troughs is kind of no way to manage a business. The yellow line and then overshadowed with the red trend line shows that our industry was actually going backwards up until 2008, 2009, and that's looking over the previous 20 years. So that's where things were in the old days, and we've really kind of moved on from there. So Mark talked a bit about being an ingredient into a product, and that's our aspirations as an industry. And those aspirations have moved us from kind of cruising along at about a 28, 29, $30 million industry at best for maybe 20 or 30 years into $100 million at farm gate as of today. So that's been great. Awesome work, and we're starting to really lift our profile, and we need to make sure that we've got enough mechanisms in place to protect what we've done and what we've created to enable continued growth. So this is where still a lot of velvet gets sold into today, but by far where most of New Zealand's velvet was being sold into. These are actual markets of Taipei, of Guangzhou, where, and I noticed a couple of co-products guys in the room, of where, tails, pizzles and sinews, but also where velvet goes into, of Jiangdong and Seoul, where still a bit of velvet goes into for the traditional markets, and Wingjiao, where the really valued jelly tip will end up south of Hangzhou, in the kind of southern part of China as well. So that's where it was going, and where it is going today is a lot more sophisticated market. So we can really enjoy being a $100 million industry. That's great, and I think we've got a bit more to go there personally. But you can see the complete change in where we're selling our velvet into, and that change has come about by working with key partners in the market to promote the New Zealand provenance. That kind of Intel inside story that we've talked about so much before. And in many cases, these are probably brands that you'll recognise as well. This is a company called LG that you might know with their electronics business, but they've also got a very big food and beverage business as well. And you can see that kind of co-branding. So how do we kind of get there? Well, really, there were three key themes for our product positioning. The first one was around environment, and there's been a lot talking about that over today, and a bit more to happen. So that's trying to promote our environment, our best environment in the world to grow velvet. There's the vitality, the aspects, aspirations of what our product can do, and our professional farmers and what have you. And that third limb, that really important limb, is around integrity, product integrity. So we've come from the old days in that commodity trade of probably being the cheapest velvet in the marketplace. So Russia was always number one. Then you had Chinese velvet, and then you had New Zealand velvet as being the cheapest, to lifting our profile up significantly, and integrity is part of that story, particularly as we go on. So from a market perspective, why do we need VelTrak? We need it for two reasons. The first one is around regulatory. So we need to make sure that their velvet is traceable from farm, identifying the farm right through to export. And secondly is to strengthen our ingredient brand position up in the markets as well. Regulatory obligations, Animal Product Act requires this one up, one down traceability system, and it requires it in a really rapid manner. So you can imagine if we got audited by overseas regulators, they want to have a look through. They don't want to be going through folders of paper. Maybe some paper-based VSD forms might be missing. They want to see rapid and accurate traceability. Those paper VSDs are subject to human error, whereas we're taking all of that out with the handheld scanners that are, obviously their technology has superseded paper-based. And it puts the finishing touch on the regulated control scheme, a system that the velvet producers in the room have worked pretty blimmin' hard to bring up their sheds to make sure that you guys act in a way that's consistent with the themes of the RCS out there. And it really does future-proof our industry for further growth. So strengthening the New Zealand velvet brand, as mentioned, we're around about $100 million business at farm gate. Food safety is absolutely paramount. If we want to continue to operate in this food sector, food safety, protecting our customers, consumers, is absolutely paramount, and it protects our brand value as well. So I've got a wee little clip here from Keel Kim, who's a buyer for our biggest customer, I guess, of New Zealand velvet in that food space. Oh, bit of sound, mate. Do you want to go back and I could mimic it.
We always buy New Zealand deer velvet because it's the best in the world. But even with the best food product, there are risks. VelTrak will help us manage those risks. Thank you, New Zealand deer velvet farmers. VelTrak is a great initiative.
So over 90, probably 99% of New Zealand's velvet that leaves our shores here leaves as a whole stick, either processed, dried, or in a frozen state. So it will leave here with the VelTrak tags around. When it gets up to the market, the tool that's been built into VelTrak, that Catherine built in, is to have this kind of pretty cool little system that a customer like KGC or one of our other partner companies can go into, and they could scan a stick or write in the barcode of the stick, and it will come up with, this is a quality assured New Zealand velvet, and what does that mean? So there is that opportunity for more branding up into the markets. So quality assured farm raised velvet means that this velvet is rapidly traceable to the farm of origin, that it's been removed and stored and handled in accordance with the regulated control scheme. Their food safety issues were complied with, around residues and what have you, and that velveting was undertaken in accordance with animal welfare aspects of the NVSB as well. So this is another chance for us to connect with a customer and to try and communicate the benefits of New Zealand velvet over and above our competitors in the marketplace. And what's awesome, and I'm going to talk tomorrow a bit more about the velvet market, but there are a couple of our closest partners, one in particular, they go, this tool is really, really cool. And we can see, the potential down the track. I'm not promising this next year or the year after, but the potential down the track where they might be able to put a QR code on some of their velvet, and that might be able to link back to a farm or to a group of farms as well. So the further applications of this system is out there in that marketing space. It's positive for the company, and of course it helps us entrench the New Zealand velvet brand as well. So I'm just going to leave you with a few words from a trade commissioner up in Seoul when we mentioned about the VelTrak program, and ask JT to come up on stage. Thank you.
Kia ora, I'm Stephen Blair, New Zealand Trade Commissioner based here in Seoul, South Korea. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate DINZ and the deer industry in New Zealand for the development and launch of the VelTrak system. Fantastic initiative, and it's what consumers and buyers here in Korea are expecting and demanding. They want to buy New Zealand deer velvet with confidence, knowing that it can be tracked and traced from the farm to the market. This adds even more value to New Zealand deer velvet here in Korea. Fantastic initiative once again. Well done for such an innovative approach, and I look forward to continuing to work with DINZ here in Korea.
Yeah, thanks, Rhys, and thanks for giving a good explanation about VelTrak. G'day, everybody. Good to be here again. You've heard a lot about VelTrak so far, Mark and Rhys, but I want to run you through how to get registered on VelTrak. If you're part of the webinars that we ran a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, you'll know what I'm going to be talking about. For the benefit of those who weren't, this is what it's all about. And just could I quickly ask how many people here are actually registered for VelTrak at the moment? Okay, a good number of you, so you know what I'm going to be saying. So what is it about? How does it work? If I can make this work. So by the end of the session, it's going to be pretty short and sharp. It's a condensed version of the webinar, but I hope you understand what it is, how it works, and what you need to do and when. So what is VelTrak? And Rhys has already talked about it a little bit. And it's an electronic web-based system for tagging and tracing deer velvet. From the time that it's harvested until it reaches the market, and it uses the wristband style tags, pretty similar to the ones that we've used in the last couple of seasons, except the big difference is that they're black. Each tag has that unique number on the bottom, but the new system will be exactly the same tags, and it'll have that embedded UHF RFID chip embedded into it. And like Rhys said, this will allow velvet to be traced, it's scanned and recorded and tracked either way right through the supply chain. So you should have already had an email invitation, and obviously quite a few of you have, to register for VelTrak, and you can get your business up and running, or you've been able to get your business up and running since the 3rd of May, a couple of weeks ago. The 1st of August is when VelTrak will actually go live for the start of the 21-22 tagging season. So please, everybody, make sure that you get registered for VelTrak way before then. Don't leave it until the last minute. Okay, so you've got your email invitation. This is what you'll get, or this is what you'll see when you click on the link in the email to get yourself registered. And then you'll receive another email immediately asking to set your password. Pretty simple stuff. And once you've done that, you'll receive another message to say that your password was set successfully. This is the window that you should see when you go to log on to VelTrak. And once you've logged on, that'll take you to your homepage. And I'll come back and talk a few things about the homepage shortly. So how it works, well, there's a comprehensive farmer user guide, and we've actually got some copies out on the stand that we'll have there for the day on Thursday as well. So don't worry if you don't remember all the details in this little short presentation. There's that user guide you can find on the DINZ website. Just click on the activities site at the top of the page. That'll take you down to what's changed for the farmers, and then you can scroll through the rest of the page. You can actually see copies of the webinar and so forth. So in actual fact, nothing's going to change. Nothing on the farm's going to change. You're still velvet your deer the same as before, cutting and tagging. And here's a flow chart just to show you exactly how it will work. It looks pretty complicated, but just bear with me and I'll talk through it. It's pretty simple, really. So there you are on the farm. You've harvested your velvet, tagged it, put it in the freezer. Excuse me. The pack house agent or the buyer would come along as normal, collects and scans the velvet and raises the VSD and sends to the farm the approval. Or the pack house agent collects the velvet, or a pack house receives and scans the velvet, or an independent buyer comes to the farm and picks up the velvet. In all of those cases, you'll get an email telling you that there's a VSD waiting for you to approve in VelTrak itself. So that's when you log into VelTrak and approve. No more paper. It's all done online. Pretty simple. When you do go to log back, you'll go to your homepage, and there's a few things there on the homepage that I'll explain. Top right-hand side with underneath Manage, that's where you can use a drop-down box where you can add users, add employees from the farm onto VelTrak. There's tags in stock where you'll find the number of tags that you've got left that auto-populates when you sell consignments of velvet. And down on the left-hand side, you can find where tags have actually gone off farm. And on the bottom right-hand corner, where you can click on to approve your VSD. And just one last note, if there's internet available on site, you can do that VSD approval while the agent or the buyer is there with you and the job's done. Pretty simple, really. So I've talked about scanning, and I mentioned it's web-based. None of the people involved in VelTrak, vets, farmers, velvet buyers or pack houses, need any special software. It's a bit like internet banking in that respect. You just need a compatible browser and a PC or even a tablet or a smartphone. But one word of caution that I should mention, there's been a few people ringing in saying that they're having trouble getting logged on. And it turns out that they needed to update the browsers on their computers. So once they've done that, everything seems to work fine. The only people that will need specialist scanners for the electronic chips and the tags are the velvet buyers or the receiving pack houses. You don't need to have one of those big UHF scanners, but if you want to record barcodes on velvet for your own farm management purposes, you could possibly use those simple point-of-sale scanners that you see there on the left-hand side, and they range in price between $100 and $300. Somebody asked me there just before, during Smoko, where you actually buy those things, and I believe the likes of Noel Leemings and shops like that actually sell them, so they're quite readily available. So what do I need to do and when? So right now, we should already have your email addresses. If we haven't and you haven't received an invitation, please make sure that we get your email address. If you don't have an email, you don't have a computer, you don't have internet connection, come and talk to us about the options. We'll try and find a way through that we can make this whole system work. We've also got that 0508 VelTrak number, and if you call into that, you'll be talking to someone directly, and most likely that will be Pam. So before the 21-22 velvet season starts, you order your new black VelTrak tags from your vet practice. That's as usual. And as usual, allow the 2 tags for each stag and the extra tags for the bags of regrowth and spiker velvet as well. Once the 21-22 season actually starts, apply the black tags to your velvet when harvested, same as before. Promptly check and approve the draft VSDs on the VelTrak website once your velvet's been sold or has gone to the pack house. All pretty much the same as before. Applying the tags, a little short video. Tags fitted loosely around the beam, and if they don't fit at the bottom, just move the tag further up the beam. Make sure that it's in a place where it won't fall off. The writing on the tag is the right way up, and each end of the tag lapped over to form a smooth surface, not together to make a sharp. What are you laughing at me for? And it's just a private joke between the two of us. And please don't deface the tags. No writing on the tags, please, as Rhys and it was mentioned that these tags go all the way into the marketplace. So it's already been mentioned, the cost of the tags to develop the development of the VelTrak system has been funded from the DINZ levies, approximately 450 Ks. In the past, the tags have been supplied free of charge. From now on, the costs for the tags will be shared between the DINZ levies, as before, and by farmers. And you'll order your tags from the vet practices before. Your vet will invoice you. And as Innes pointed out earlier on, the recommended retail price, 49 cents a tag. But that price will be set by your vet practice. Okay. Summary. It will protect the product safety and integrity of the velvet industry. It's closely linked to the RCS and it helps make it watertight. Farmers play a real key part in the system, obviously, and it's simple and it's secure and it's easy to use. VelTrak registration for farm businesses opened on the 3rd of May, but please get it done before the 1st of August. And the principal contact in the farm business will get the email invitation to kick the whole process off. So please, again, make sure that we do have your email addresses. No system's perfect from day one, but we're certainly going to give it a good shot. So feedback will be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll just take 5 minutes for any questions that anybody might have. Tony Cochrane, as somebody else who's been pretty well involved in this development and rollout, joins us on stage. PGG Wrightsons.
Yeah, what's the real cost per tag? I see DINZ is paying part of it and the farmer's going to pay 49 cents. So what's the full cost?
45 cents Australian plus freight and handling. So we haven't actually got them here yet, so it'll be 50 cents Australian plus a bit.
DINZ is not paying much, is it?
Your Deer Industry New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll take a week in order to keep that individual tag price to you lower. There will be a small subsidy from the levy as well. So DINZ is picking up a bit, and the rest is being passed on to the vet.
You're just being a little bit evasive. What is the full cost? Like I understand, we as farmers we're going to pay 49 cents or 50 cents.
Yeah.
And what's the part that DINZ is paying? So what's the full cost per tag?
So the full cost per tag is 45 Australian cents per tag plus freight.
Then the DINZ contribution is not much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
Richard.
Will VelTrak or your buyer be able to then give you a full printout and report of your velvet at the end of the year? Because with all this tracing and trackability that you're collecting, where does all that data go, and what can you produce for your growers?
So VelTrak isn't an inventory management system, so it doesn't record price, weight, grade. So your velvet buyer will still have to maintain that system that they will use to pay you. VelTrak will record the number of tags that you've been issued and the number of those tags which have been scanned.
Yes, so just to back up that, so what will show up on your VelTrak homepage when you're signing off on a consignment, just the number of tags that have left the place? Or?
Yeah, all of that detail will be there, and you can track and trace consignments even from after we've had this season, even previous seasons as well. You'll be able to track everything that's gone from the farm.
So we do have a dummy. There is a dummy VSD form we could probably show. So once a VSD's all been populated, it comes out. It comes out, and that can be stored as an electronic file, and that's got all your tag numbers on there as well. So everything that's been approved.
I think to answer Richard's question initially is further down the track, will we be able to marry up the tag to the report that you get on your tags or from your velvet buyer or exporter, whatever. And at this stage, no. The reason for that is that we ourselves are going to have to run two separate systems. One's our own and one's VelTrak, which sit side by side, but they don't talk to each other. Over time, hopefully, we'll be able to look at ways of being able to marry the two together.
All right, well, I'd like to thank our speakers and for the work that they've done in bringing this off.